Okay. All right. Let's see.
So you're chewing gum.
Yes, I'll make sure to get rid of that beforehand. Welcome, everybody, to an almost perfect podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to an almost perfect. Am I looking at the right camera? Yes. Okay. An almost
I
perfect
see you.
podcast.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I have two cameras. One of them keeps messing up, and that's the one I should be looking at. That one right there. How about this? Oh,
yeah. I think so.
let me put that one out of the way so I don't get confused. So, welcome
Yeah,
back
it's
to
not
an
that one.
almost to an almost perfect podcast. I am John, who is staring at the right camera, and I am here with Tom, who's always got the right camera going. Tom, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well, and once again, we're so high tech here and so well organized.
We talked about that, and you just froze on me, man. So I don't know what you said. And
Yeah.
maybe it's my fault. Now I'm getting messages that my internet is unstable, which is weird. I've never had that. So that's the podcast forces at work, I guess, Tom. They're trying to keep us down, but not today. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Tom, tell me how many miles you put on your car, bro.
You mean total
This
or
past
just
week?
this last week?
Yeah, this last week. I'm not looking for like a diagnostic check of your
Well,
car.
I know that it's easier to tell you how many. We're at 45,000 on the little over 45,000 on the Kia. I think we probably went at about 1,200. It's easier to tell you how much we spent because Ellen already uh, added that up. We went from here to Springfield, Missouri. Spent Monday, I think 4 nights in Springfield, and then came back, stayed with a really good friend for one night, and 6 days after we left, we got home and spent less than $1,000 in gas and food. We were very. I'm trying to think of the word thrifty on food.
I
So
call that old school. When we used to make road trips when I was a kid, we never stopped at restaurants. We had sandwiches and hot dogs wrapped up, and that's yeah. So anyway,
when we were traveling, that's what we had. Ellen had everything prepared. We had a little cooler, and then you know, at our age, we get like the kids' meal and split it.
yeah, yeah. So Gloria and I, we're not quite there splitting a kids meal, but we do find ourselves splitting meals more and more now.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. We're good. I'm glad you had a good trip. Glad you are home. Glad everything went well. Which story did I want to put up? More Americans are heading for retirement in Europe. Will you join them? I won't be joining them for retirement. That's interesting. Oh, here's one. Do you like to swim? Tom, are you a
Oh
swimmer?
yeah. Well, I like to do things in the water, and it involves swimming. But
Mhm.
swimming for exercise, no. But getting in the water and doing things, yes.
So if you don't swim for exercise, you probably don't swim for, competition's sake, right?
Oh
So,
no, yeah, that was middle school when I did, and I was not one of the better swimmers. So
so do not fear. The Lake Argyle swim is going ahead, right? It will not be stopped. Even though the day before this is in West Australia, even though the day before somebody was swimming in the lake where this all happens and was bitten by an alligator.
an alligator or a crocodile?
Crocodile, excuse me, a crocodile. I
Yeah,
always forget, one sees you later and one will see you after a while. I always forget. Yeah. Was bit by a crocodile. Three or four other people are going to help and they get bit too. And everybody says, that's okay. That was yesterday. Move on. And we're still going to have our swim. Tom, if the day before you knew the place where you were going to swim, the day before somebody got bit, several people got bit by a crocodile, are you swimming that day?
oh no, no.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will say one thing: I won't be in the front of the pack, and I won't be at the back of the pack.
Oh, no, thank you. Ah, The man who was on a houseboat on Lake Argyle with the group was bitten while swimming at the Hicks Passage area of the lake. Three other people were also bitten by the same crocodile while trying to help the man. Which I didn't know crocodiles bit you. I thought they got you and then that was it. Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, grabbed you and take you under and
take you
thrashed you
under.
around.
Yeah, so he must have
Well,
just been playing with them.
part of me is going because they got bit. Doesn't sound like it was a very big crocodile. It was a very courageous crocodile. You know?
So what it
Oh yeah,
says is
they outweigh me by 100 pounds, but I'm going to take a bite out of them.
it's kind of like, your toddlers, they're trying out their teeth and they got the worst
Uh-huh.
teeth, right? Right. Oh, here's why. Lake Argyle is home to, this is crazy, brother. This is crazy. Lake Argyle is home to about 35,000 freshwater crocodiles.
Wow.
35,000, and you're going to swim in there. But these, which are less aggressive than their saltwater counterparts. So maybe that's it, right? They're not as
There's
needy.
at least, yeah, I was gonna say there's at least one that's more like its saltwater cousin. So
And those of us who live on, close to salt water, we know about aggressiveness and that's just the way it is, right? But somebody says, well, the thing about it is it helps you swim faster. If you know there's a crocodile after you, you'll swim a little faster. So it'll help your time, maybe, if you have a crocodile
yeah,
facing
oh
you.
yeah,
Yeah, no, no, thank you. So I'm an island guy. Everybody knows I love my hometown Galveston. I love being here in Corpus. I love the beach, but I'm not like all about getting in the water because I want to see my feet, right? I want to see what's under there, right? So give me a pool besides this, water the way it looks on the other side of the Mississippi. It is, it's gross. Ask Charles Barkley. He knows about the Galveston water, and there's a reason why I don't like to get in all that water. I like to see what's under there. And this would be one of those stories I'd be like, because of that, right there, right? Because I'm not. There's no way I'm swimming with crocodiles.
what I know that people have, well, like swam from forget like Florida to Cuba. The one woman
Hmm.
did that, and it takes days. I forget how long it took her, but she had someone in a boat next to her, and they were specifically watching for sharks.
Yeah.
So uh, I'm laughing because I remember reading Teddy Roosevelt uh, after San Juan Hill and all of that. He was still in Cuba, and there was a ship in the harbor that had been sunk, and he wanted to go out there, and his aide, uh, you know, had to go with him because after all he was colonel uh, to his lieutenant, and so they're swimming out there, and he's describing this whole time what's going on, and he's saying that we're swimming along, and there's these these sharks that are bigger than tanks swimming alongside him, and
Mm-mm.
and Teddy
Mm-mm.
Roosevelt, who is a naturalist, he's going as he's swimming, he says, "Don't worry about them." And he goes, in all my studies, they've never bitten anybody. And he
Mm-mm.
swims all the way out there and then turns around and comes back after checking out the battleship. So
No, that's all right. No, thank you. No, thank you. I guess that's why they say Australia is like the Texas of that part of the world because these people are like, yeah, they're there, no big deal. But no, no, thank you, no, thank you. So
I would say there, Australia and Texans have very similar characteristics.
you do. So Tom, I've been a pastor a couple of decades. You've been a pastor a few decades, and there have been times when these stories have come out where other pastors, typically from other traditions of the church, that these pastors, they go on, they get their spiel ready and they get their talk ready, and They want to get everybody in the church pumped up because it's time to buy a new plane. Have you ever had to do
New plane.
a new plane? Have you ever had to do a fundraiser for a new plane, new private jet or at all at any of your churches?
The closest, and no, the
No,
closest
no.
that would have happened is if we were trying to raise money for a what I forget what the name of the mission is that they have jungle pilots that fly in and out of areas, and actually had a friend who was fully prepared to do that, had studied, was a pilot, knew how to fix planes and stuff, uh, and recently in the last few months spoke to him and was surprised he was still here, and he said, because of his age, they kind of looked at him and said, no, we're looking for someone younger. And going, that's one of those moments where the those who are retired or are nearly retired, we are actually pretty good people to target for missions and outreach, because
Mm,
one, we're usually financially stable. Too, we have time, and we've had a long commitment to following Jesus Christ. So I was, when I heard that, and I had just read something recently about that, and I'm going, they're missing an opportunity. They're not
mm,
seeing, the fields that are white unto harvest, those who are ready to be
sure.
harvested for the kingdom, to do kingdom work.
Amen, amen. Well, I thought this is what I thought when I first saw the story. I thought about those pastors. Like this is probably a good deal when I read about all these Spirit airline airplanes that are just there at airports, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This would be a good time. Get a liquidated plane, get it on sale. You could sell it to the congregation. It's cheaper, and now's the time. You know, maybe you can get a buy one get two free, something like that. I don't know, maybe so. But if there was ever a time to get a plane as a pastor, maybe now's the time. Maybe now. Anybody? Anybody? No. So maybe not. Okay. Let's see here. All right. So let's start talking about what we have here, Tom. Actually, and maybe as a way to introduce that, we haven't talked about it here, but and it's not really podcast news because somebody asked me, well, will the podcast continue? I am being, I have a new appointment coming up, a new pastoral appointment that starts in July. And I have been here in Corpus Christi, here at Kelsey, for just about 11 years now. But my new appointment will be in Del Rio, Texas, which is over here. Like, so see, like here's that. You see the screen. Yeah, I'm still over here. That's where I'll be now, in Del Rio.
And for those who are seeing John like me, it's the opposite.
The opposite. Sorry.
Yeah, because he's heading due west of us.
Well, so I'm still,
We're on the coast,
that's right, on the
which is
coast.
on the east, and he's headed.
But if you
Uh,
go to San Antonio, right, where that great basketball team is still playing, it is
did
pretty.
they win last night?
No, they did not, but that's okay. But it
Okay.
is pretty much due west of San Antonio, about another 2.5 or 3 hours. So that's where I'll be starting in July. And I mean, we do the podcast over Zoom, so there's really no reason to think that, we wouldn't do it anymore unless Tom doesn't want to do a podcast with somebody who doesn't live in Corpus anymore. I don't know.
Well, and what's interesting, John and I are less than 2 miles apart. And and the funny thing is just amazing to me this that you could be in Europe and I could be in South America, as long as we have good we coordinate the time and we have good internet. We could
Oh
do this
man.
anywhere.
Can you imagine, Tom, if we lived in different time zones, like how bad the preparation would be then? If it's bad now, it'd
having
be horrible.
having having lived in the Russian Far East, and then I had a friend who called me on my birthday, and first of all, they're they start, let's say today's Monday, they start Monday when we're still uh, in Sunday afternoon, no, or even I'm still in church. So they're a half a day at
Sure.
least ahead. And so when she calls me at 2 in the morning, it's probably early afternoon for her. But
Yeah.
but and
Wake
she's
up, Tom.
and she's speaking Russian, which I at the time understood most of what she was saying. But at 2 in the morning, even if you're speaking English, I don't know if I understand it all. But
Very
anyway,
funny.
yes, that creates an interesting experience.
So, Tom, you are somebody who has been and will be on both sides of this equation, being someone who has served as a pastor, who has moved himself, who has been new to a congregation, who has left a congregation, but also somebody who has experienced that as well. Is that right?
Yeah, experienced
Like
uh,
experience a pastoral
as
move as a
as a
parishioner.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
So, what's it like to be on both sides of that?
I will say one thing. Once you have served as a pastor, uh, it certainly changes how you view the change. First of all, you as a United Methodist pastor, we know it is inevitable that we will move,
Hmm.
and we also know that we typically do not have control of when that happens. Yeah,
Right.
you're a case in point that the last time we met, you were going to be here, and then this time we're meeting, and you're not going to be here. So I know when a new pastor arrives, I have a lot more grace toward that new pastor, whoever he or she is, and I understand that it is like going someplace, a different community, a different culture, and you don't even have to leave the United States, and you definitely don't even have to leave Texas to experience an entirely different culture. And so
Sure.
your palate's not used to Mexican food, but you better get used to Mexican food if you're going to be in South Texas. But eventually, you get to that point, and that's having been in Russia. Yeah, it was an adjustment all the way around, and it's not as big of a change, but it's that kind of change when you have a new pastor coming in. For the pastor, it's adjusting to the culture of a different church. For the church, it's adjusting to the culture, the different culture, the culture of a different pastor.
Mm. I've never experienced a pastoral move from a parishioner's point of view. Like I didn't go to church growing up, and even like when we were first married, the churches we had, they just, some cases we weren't there long enough, and other cases that the pastor was just there for a long time too. And so I've never had that experience where, one week to another, you're welcoming in another pastor. So this will be, I mean, I guess technically I've moved churches. I've been appointed to churches, but I also moved churches before official appointments. And if you count those to work at churches as part of the process, if you count those, I think I've done maybe six. I guess maybe seven moves. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of adjusting that goes on, and pastors, there's always this. Depends on who you talk to, right? You don't change anything for a year, right? Because you don't want to get into that. Or the other person says, no, 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 you change it as soon as you need to, because if not, you're stuck with something and it's harder after that year. So there's always this sort of balance of, like you said, learning the culture of a congregation and being in a new place and bringing who you are into that and yeah, finding out where that balance is, I guess. So it's always
Well,
been fun for me.
yeah, and talking with pastor friends about retirement, having having preceded some of my friends in that, I always said, say no to everything for the first 3 months, and after that, then you have a better idea of what it is you want to do, and in that process, then start.
Did you
start.
hear that, Del Rio? Tom said you got 3 months and then that's it. We're changing
Well,
everything.
and the only thing I would say is it's best to communicate after you've learned the language.
Mm, that's good. That's a good word.
But well, the other thing is, but in order to learn the language, you have to communicate.
Mm, very good. That's good stuff. All right, so that's what's again, that doesn't mess with the podcast at all. I'm sure we won't be able to talk about the hooks as much maybe, but everything else will be fine. We're gonna be okay as far as the podcast. And so we'll keep going and we'll figure out who else is going to join us too from here
Yeah,
on out.
yeah. I know. Hope to bring at least some hooks related stuff into our conversation in the days ahead, maybe before, maybe after you leave. Um, the one thing, this is shameless promotion. First of all, on Facebook, I post when I write an article, and my articles this summer are focused on the experiences of being a Hooks fan, and I do that at nealtarver.com, and I've had that website ever since I started getting into writing, more less as a pastime and more as a profession that just doesn't make any money.
No, that's right. All right, Tom. So, considering all that, this actually ties together with this article that I sent to you and gave you plenty of time to prepare for. America's pastor pipeline is collapsing. Fewer Americans, and this is article is centered on the American church. So I don't know how much we can, say about Church Universal in different places, but fewer Americans want to become pastors.
Well, and to having read the article, and also very aware of what the church is doing around the world, Asian and Latino, like South America, Central America, those, let's say, non-Western uh, churches are growing; they're exploding
Hmm.
around the world. And when the pipeline used to be, say, North American churches who would raise up uh, pastors who became missionaries who went to places like Africa and Asia. And I was thinking that's the other areas, Asia and Africa. And I don't think they mentioned South America, but I know that the church has been growing very, very strongly in those areas.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm worried.
now they're sending
It's the other way around. Yeah.
they don't have enough places to put these guys. No,
Yeah.
they recognize the need to send pastoral support back to the Western world.
And that's been fascinating to me. I've tried to, show people like, we're so used to hearing about decline in the church, particularly over the last, decade or so, a couple of decades. Like we just think that that's what happens. But like you're saying, like, no, no, no. It's happening here and it's happened in other places, but that's not what's happening everywhere. And so we can pay attention to that and kind of see what we can learn from that and understand. So, this article says fewer Americans want to become pastors as the pastor role becomes lower paid, higher risk, and less trusted. The U.S. isn't just losing clergy, it's losing a key layer of local leadership, especially in rural and black communities. It used to be that, or it sort of kind of generally thought that pastor salary would be kind of on par of local teacher salary. Is that fair?
I guess, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, I was going to say, as United Methodist, that would certainly be
that's about
fair.
right. And so we've all heard about the struggles that teachers have had in getting good pay and everything. So maybe the other thing about that, the lower pay, I think if you understand the situation and it's a church and it's run by people who give out of their generosity, all that kind of stuff, you understand that. But then as more and more churches expect you to have certain levels of education, it's like, well, where's the rub where how can I afford these levels of education if I'm working at a place that, doesn't help? Like we always say, the only people who spend more time in school are doctors and lawyers, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But they get out and they get way higher paying jobs, and their student loans they can handle a little better than we can. And so anyway, that's just a part of the equation that a lot of people have to look at practically. Like, is this something that I can actually financially do? Can I take care of my family on the salary that I might get from a church? Higher risk, I think, Tom, would you agree that higher risk is, in kind of the culture we live in, if you say one thing, then you sort of alienate one half of your church. And if you say something else, the other half gets mad. And if you say the wrong thing, then, there's an uproar, this sense of, you struggle to figure out what you need to say and how you need to say it because at some point it's going to blow up and somebody's going to be after you. I don't know how much you've ever experienced that in your ministry.
Oh yeah, I've definitely experienced that. And but the other side of that is we talk about that, but the gospel carries a risk anyway. I
Sure.
mean, Jesus was very clear about the message, and to tell the truth that got him killed, but it wasn't unexpected. It was part of who he was, and he talked about it a great deal before he was crucified. But did he back off from the message? No.
Right.
Did he stop challenging the culture? No. Did he change the direction of life in the world? Absolutely. And so and you touched on this yesterday when you were talking about love comforts, but it also confronts, and the nature of God will be both comforting and confrontational. It's like God will be present in your struggles and in your pain, but God will also be um, confrontational in those places where you need to change,
Yeah.
and it. You just don't like to admit it. So when we talk about risk, you know, we we need to know there is a risk. We need to admit and look at it. Jesus didn't avoid talking about suffering, and he knew that was a part of what he would have to go through in order to get to the place we call resurrection, and the ultimate exclamation point to the ministry of Christ is the resurrection. So,
Yeah.
so risk is going to be a part of anything you do that is outside of what people are used to, whether it's as a pastor or entrepreneur or restaurant owner. It's always a risk.
There's
Life is
always something there, right? And my simple way to paraphrase Jesus would be, I mean, if they did it to me, they're gonna do it to you, right? So there is that sense of, I mean, if you're gonna speak truth, what's the old deal? The truth will set you free, but first it will tick you off, right? And and so and there's that, that tension and that rub when it happens, and don't shoot the messenger, but maybe you make life difficult for the messenger. Maybe call the superintendent on the messenger. Maybe you fire the messenger, right? And all that feels like a lot for people to feel like they want to deal with more and more as clergy.
Yeah. Well,
What?
and for anyone involved within the church, I would dig deep into the gospel, lay
Mhm.
that foundation right there, because Jesus talks about that and compares it between the person who builds a home on the rock and a person who builds on the sand. Sand will shift every time there's anything that comes along, the current, the wind, all of that will erode the foundation. But to build on Him and Him alone, that's the unshakable foundation. And know from the beginning that's what your call is. Your call is to live in Jesus Christ and invite others to live in Him.
So do you think that maybe there's maybe a reevaluation that where we need to have maybe a lot of us have a wrong sense or misguided sense of what it means to actually be a pastor in a local church?
There's this I guess balance. You already kind of talked about the advice that comes in. Don't do anything for a year. Oh, from the beginning, if you need to change something, change it right off. You know, uh, both of those things are true. And for but it where it changes is the individual is
Hmm.
you know we're wired in different ways. But you know, my my advice is kind of like there are a number of military services in our nation, and the Marines are one of them. And they don't uh, they don't market an easy life. They
Mm.
don't, their invitation is to be one of the few, the proud, the Marines. And I know this, and anyone else who knows the mentality of a Marine is we're the ones who stormed the beaches. Now, as an Army guy, I'm going, that's PR, but that's PR that says to the person getting in, this is going to be hard.
Mm.
And 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 I think that needs to be a part of any invitation to serve Christ. Is it is a narrow road, and it is a difficult walk, and uh, and if you expect it to suddenly change and make you you know uh, healthier, wealthier, and all of these things, if that happens, it'll be a shock.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna say it won't happen.
Sure, yeah, it won't happen. And I think that's part of what, I think what's out there as well. We see it, especially now, everybody's got a ministry. And I say everybody, I think I'm speaking generally. You get these mega church pastors that have all these platforms, and it's like that's kind of the gold star. That's kind of the standard that I wonder if maybe younger people, even the church itself, is kind of bought into. Yeah, let's make that happen for somebody. But I agree with you, Tom. Like if you're going into it thinking about what the church can give to you, then I think that's backwards because that's not the calling, and that's where I feel like some of this is real conversation. We got to realize. I think that maybe some of these ideas we have of church, some of the systems that we've created over a couple of generations, maybe they've kind of reached their limit, and we've got to reevaluate what ministry is supposed to be and what it could look like. We've talked before plenty of times, right? Like, how in the world are we supposed to like keep up the maintenance on all these buildings when people give less and less because people attend less and less, and people are there less and less. Like, so we've got to figure out something out, but finding the tension there as a pastoral leader, but also in the sense that this is something that the church has kind of built itself, and so maybe we've got to reevaluate some of that as well. And
Yeah,
and
and
like you also, I want to be like if somebody's new, I want to be truthful and say, yeah, you know what, you're gonna have some times where, golly, what is going on? But you're also gonna have a lot of good stuff happen too. I mean, right? Isn't that the guy? I mean, you're talking about the gospel stories, right? There are some times when people want to throw Jesus off the cliff, but then there's these experiences where there's people are 5,000 people, 4,000 people are being fed, and somebody, is being brought back to life, and somebody is who was blind, but now they can see. Like there's also these wonderful things that happen as well. And that's just a part of the whole of ministry.
Well, yeah, I wanted to, yeah, I'm going to say, don't want to say, just tell them how terrible it is. Uh, no, tell them
What are
the
you
truth.
thinking?
Yeah, tell people the truth who are
The truth,
considering
yeah.
ministry, and that balance. But even when Jesus is talking about betrayal and being arrested and being beaten and being crucified, in the midst of that is he's enduring all of that because he knows that on the other side of the cross is an empty tomb and the resurrection, and there's nothing that beats that. Nothing. But like you said, there's because because I served as a pastor, a United Methodist pastor, not far from Del Rio. Um, I know what it is to live among ranchers. Because I served as a pastor and served in rural Wisconsin, I know what it's like to live among dairy farmers. Because I'm a pastor, I had the opportunity to go to Russia and serve for 6 years. And because I'm a pastor, all of these things, but it's not just about the places I've been, which have been wonderful. Even time places where I had difficulty, I look back and go, "Thank you, Lord, that I was there," because I learned some lessons, still learning some lessons, and met some amazing people who loved the church, loved Christ, loved the church, and wanted to see it flourish just as much as a pastor does. Only the only thing they work for, and they don't even do it for that, is maybe a gift card and a thank you. And that's about it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I wonder if some of this helps us think more like I've long uh, thought about bivocational ministry, right? The like almost the necessity to return to that for a lot of us, because that's, I mean, again, there are going to be fewer churches that can sustain having paying a full time. And not just, as United Methodist, but just in general, right? That's why a lot of churches didn't survive COVID, right? Because fewer people came, fewer people gave, and then it's like, how do you maintain that?
And,
So,
and they didn't come back.
and they didn't
That's
come back. Exactly. Exactly. And so, which is also kind of funny. Like you have churches that, you know, that that are closing communities, so many churches, but then at the same time, you have like another new church popping up somewhere in the same city quite often, and just there's just weird. I don't know what all that means. So, uh, just in the
it
last few minutes,
means churches die, but the work of Christ continues.
and I think, wow, and we're uncomfortable with that, aren't we? Right? We don't like to deal with death, and we don't like to think that a church might need to die, but that's a reality as well. And I wonder if part of that is because kind of this how what we've built up. Like, yeah, okay, churches can die, but not my church, right? If every time, right? That's always somebody else's. But that's yeah, that's a hard part of this. So let's see, Tom, how do we wrap this up the next few minutes to help people think about why this is important for the life of their church and how it relates to their faith?
One of the things I would say is, and Kelsey is going to have to go through this very soon because you're going to Del Rio. We're going to receive a new pastor,
Mhm.
and and the number one thing is uh, treat the new pastor like a new person in the church, like
Good.
specifically Kelsey, treat the new pastor like you treated me. That's one of the reasons I stayed. You welcomed me. You got out of your pew, went up, talked to me, and not every church does that. And for those who are going to be receiving a new pastor, welcome them as initially as a guest because you have more experience in that church than the pastor does. And if they've heard bad things about the church, make them realize that was just gossip.
Mm,
Okay.
mm, that's good. And the way I would sort of wrap it up for us is also this to me is in our Sunday school class, the last several weeks, we've been talking about spiritual gifts. And one of the things that's important to me is I feel like a lot of the times in the spiritual gift conversation, it's always, well, go find your spiritual gift and find out what it is. And I think that's important. But the way I understand spiritual gifts, is that the church should play a big role in helping you discover and notice and see what your spiritual gifts are. And so, you know, as we do that together, like within this, like paying attention to who are the people that have that calling of caring for God's people and for caring for the order of the church and for being the prophetic voice as well and to nurture that and let that be how we move forward hopefully so spiritual
Yeah,
gifts.
I would say spiritual gifts are not discovered by taking a survey. They're
Right,
discovered by being a part of a community.
exactly,
Your identity and your gifts kind of arise and are formed in that interrelationship with other people, and it's not
exactly.
just simply people who are in your church. Although that's the best place to find spiritual gifts is, you suddenly find that you have the gift of service. You love clean, and honestly, this is, you love cleaning up after everybody has left.
It's a
uh,
gift.
you love uh, you know uh, leading a small group and going through scripture. I mean, just, you happen to be the person, for some reason they keep calling and say, brother or sister, would you pray for me? And you find satisfaction in just simply praying for people or visiting the sick in the hospital. You discover those things because you're in community, and other people actually see things that you don't see and affirm you till you finally say, oh, yeah,
Oh,
I see
exactly.
what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep, exactly. All right, Tom, that's good stuff. And I guess we're thinking about ways that you can encourage your pastors, particularly a new pastor. Maybe you'll go buy them one of these old Spirit airplanes and have it ready for say, hey, you're gonna love it here. You've got your own plane. How about that? Or at least a gift card to Luby's or something. Something, I guess. I don't know.
Gift cards are nice.
Gift cards are nice. All right,
We
Tom.
would we would have saved even more money if we had remembered to bring all of our restaurant gift cards with us.
That's right. That's right. We'd have been fine. All right, Tom, that's good for us to stop. Thank you for your wisdom and insight. I appreciate that. Thank you for the gift of your time. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know, how do you deal with a new pastor? What kind of emotions come out of that? And what do you look forward to also when something like that happens? That's a part of the life of the church. So let us know. We'll be back next week, and who knows what we'll talk about, but Tom will know 5 minutes beforehand, and it'll all be
At least
good.
5 minutes ahead of time.
At
This
least,
time, even 10 minutes ahead of
10
time.
minutes high. Unless I'm in a different time zone, then it might even be a day before just because of how the time zones work. But have a great rest of the week and God be with you.